Do you ever have those theories that you think are gonna happen and you don't want them necessarily to happen, but you just see how the way the world's moving and the ebbs and flows of time, and you just have a feeling something is gonna go a certain way?
I've had that feeling before, but it just depends on what it is. I it's a stupid example, but it's kind of like in Star Wars. After the eighth movie, I was like, yeah, I something tells me in the back of my mind because I didn't want to accept it, but something told me in the back of my mind that shit was just gonna get progressively worse after that, and it did. It got much fucking worse. And excuse me, they threw us a couple fucking bones right with the first two seasons of Mandalorian, and then they pulled at our heartstrings with Obi-Wan. Um, what else? They gave us the last season of the Clone
Clone.
Wars, the Bad Batch, which was supposed to be, I guess, kind of like Clone Wars Part 2, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I kind of knew at that point, like, yeah, it's just going to be fucking downhill from here. I didn't want it to be true because I loved Star Wars that much, but I knew that most likely it was just going to continue to get fucking worse.
And you ever felt like with these whatever theories you have, you ever felt like you could fix it, or do you think when you fix it, like part of fiction is having to prophesize, I guess, and with that idea, but to prophesize, you have to explain what's gonna happen. So, do you think these problems are fixable that you have, or you think it's way bigger than you?
Well, I think it's way bigger than me because at the end of the day, I don't have the, how do I say this? I don't have like the pull to like change anything with Disney Star Wars. So it just basically has to run its course. It needs to go through the fucking fire, basically. It needs to go through all this shit. I mean, plus they already made a bunch of shit. They already have a bunch of shit that's lined up. They have to release it at some point, right? They got to write it off on their taxes, right? So, I mean, as far as Star Wars is concerned, I mean, I think now the people have really like pushed forward, and we were really able to make change as far as, well, not really, but I for a minute I was like, oh wait, something good did come out. I'm like, oh no, nothing fucking good came out other than Andor. I mean, there's nothing that's actually good that's come out from Disney Marvel. I mean Disney Star Wars.
Just from outside looking in, I feel like the problem with Star Wars is that they try too hard to make it on George Lucas, because everything, like, I feel like the things that have been coming out, they're on paper good, but they take out like the George Lucas charm of Star Wars. And obviously now you just feel like with Star Wars, it doesn't feel like George Lucas anymore. And I think that's what people wanted at first. They wanted like, oh, I want to have the guy who did the Spider-Man movies to do Star Wars, because that's what that one show is. Though, what's it called? Skeleton Crew, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's done by the guy who did the No Way Home movies for Spider-Man. And then obviously he's like, oh, I want the guy who did Iron Man to do Star Wars. That's freaking Mandalorian. And then they're like, do you know this new James Mangold thing that he said he's coming up with?
Wait, that's the guy that directed the fucking Wolverine movie, no? Deadpool
And
Wolverine.
and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Oh yeah. No, they're giving him a trilogy.
They said he has a movie.
I mean, I don't think. I think Indiana Jones could have been better. I think it was a studio that was keeping it down.
What I think that movie was basically like a movie where they told him like, okay, you can do this movie, but in the future, but we want you to do this movie first as like a favor.
Mm.
And then he got that favor, and then he was like, yeah, you could do that. But also he did that what's it called, that Bob Dylan movie that came out like a month ago.
I didn't see it.
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I seen it.
Yeah, he directed that movie too. So maybe he wanted that movie to come out, and that was kind of like the favor. And then kind of went the other way. But yeah, he has a Star Wars movie coming out. But yeah, it just kind of has like the same feeling. And the other thing I really like is I like how like you just like you're on your phone while we're recording right now.
I mean, I can still interact.
Not really, because you're kind of like tapped out.
No, I'm not because I'm very invested in Star Wars.
You're tapped out.
No, I mean I'm tapped out now, but I think I would say this. It basically has to run its course right now before it starts getting good. That's basically what it has to do right now. You know what I mean? Because the people can only do so much. We try to do as much as we can, but the thing is, the people behind it don't care. They're just trying to put out fucking garbage. They just, like you said, they want to ignore George Lucas's legacy. I mean, not even really. They want to. I mean, they wouldn't have put out Obi-Wan if that was true.
I think they do want to still make things for the fans, but at the same time, if something doesn't go right with the fans, they like throwing them under the bus too, just kind of messed up. Because they'll take all the glory when like they have what's his name, Hayden Christensen come back, like they'll get like, yeah, we did it for the fans, or when they have the AI or CGI Luke Skywalker, they're like, yeah, we did it for the fans, we did it all for the fans, and then but then once something bad happens that the fans don't like, they'll be like, oh no, the fans are.
They'll say that the fans are toxic. That's what they always resort to. Oh, the fans are toxic. But what it is that there's no story being crafted. That's really what it is. Because when you watch like the first 6 movies, there's very clearly a story that's being crafted. This is the rise and fall of a man who loved his family or loved his
universe.
His galaxy, right? That he loved his home. He loved everything, but mainly his wife. I mean, it's really a love story, is really what it is. And
oh, you're talking about Anakin.
Yeah, I'm talking about
I thought you were talking about George Lucas.
Well, I mean, you could almost say that Anakin could be like a reflection of George Lucas. I mean,
well, it's like
maybe more so Luke, but
it's like what Kanye said. He's like George Lucas put Luke. He had his name Luke, and then Luke went out with his sister. That's not how Kanye sounds. I'm sorry. You don't sound that ghetto, but yeah. Can you put on your phone, please, sir? Kind of recording right now.
Sorry, I have a little bit.
You're kind of recording right now. What's the emergency? Anyways, on the topic of these feelings or these thoughts that you have, I have this. I feel this is like the most ultimate black truth that we had in the episode so far. So, anyways, welcome to episode 5 of The Black Truth. I'm Franklin K. Side.
I'm Nick Myra.
And there's a lot of things, interesting things going on this week. We're on the eve of Donald J. Trump being inaugurated for the second time, being both the 45th and the 47th president. And it feels like there's a uncertainty in the air. And I'm not doing this like the libtard where they're gonna kill us.
They're gonna send us back to Mexico.
We'll die. I'm just saying like we don't know if he's actually gonna be based or not. Like that's like the only problem that we're.
America First. What are you, an America First fan?
Well, yeah. I just want to know if he's gonna be America First. Like I know there's a few people who they describe themselves as America First and everything, but with Trump, I think what's gonna happen is he's gonna turn like the whole world America, and then he's like, oh, that's how I'm America first.
You make the whole entire fucking world America, the new American empire.
Yeah, you just make everything America, and then you don't have a place. You don't have a place to call your own if everyone's America. All right, like what are we gonna call this place?
Call this place?
Yeah, we're gonna call this place like Main America.
Like just America.
The main Americas.
The main America. The America.
Middle, and then like the Middle East, like Israel is gonna be called like Middle East.
No, they're gonna keep the name Israel.
Like where Israel's called, gonna be called like Middle East Americas.
Middle East Americas, the New America, the New Jerusalem.
Yeah, well that's a feeling that we're getting. Well, again, we don't know. They said there's a theory again as the recording. We might drop it later this week, but there's a plan that Trump's gonna do with ICE. He's gonna drop like 200 ICE members in Chicago. That's gonna be the first part. It's kind of I don't know if it's because Chicago is more manageable than New York, but I guess that's the idea of what's gonna happen. But yeah, no, just like the uncertainty right now is just that we don't know if.
Part of me thinks they won't do it. Like I think they might deport like the dumbass ones that are hanging out outside, like like the ballsy ones. They're like, oh, they're not gonna fucking take me. They might take them because I find it very hard to believe that these guys are gonna be like breaking into homes and shit, and and they're gonna just drag them out.
Yeah, to me, it feels like this one might be just like a scare tactic to like they'll get like the main ones they see, and then they'll scare some people, and then like whoever is still there, either they're gonna like lay low, not gonna be like violent, or either just gonna straight out leave. Um, but yeah, no, it might just be like a little scare tactic to make, cause I think the problem with the idea of them like just like the simple idea of them like mass deportations. I know it sounds cool and all, but
But see, the thing is that we think it's cool because we're right wingers. You have to remember, there's still a lot of people that are a lot of fucking people that are pro illegal immigration. A lot of fucking, and you know that there's a lot out there.
well, the yeah, that's what I mean. Like the simple idea of just like mass deportations, it makes a lot of people scared.
And I genuinely believe, I think there are going to be some like left wing activists that are going to try to harvest illegal aliens in their house.
Are you talking about like in the floorboards type thing, or just like in the basement?
Yeah, like some fucking Schindler's List fucking type of shit.
I would just say that they're like, well, it wasn't Glorious
Oh,
Bastards.
I don't know why I said Schindler's List. Like,
Because you haven't.
they're gonna try to hide them like in fucking Inglorious Bastards. They're gonna be like they're gonna have like these fucking ICE agents walk in, and then like you know how like Hispanics eat a lot of beans, and then one of them are gonna fucking fart, and they're like, oh, we found him, fuck right here. You know what I mean?
I would just keep them like where the either in the attic or in, because I could say they're fixing the roof, or in the basement. I would say, oh, they're fixing the plumbing. Like, you know, there's a lot of compacted like stuff down there. They're just fixing that down there. It just happens that they're fixing that 24/7. But yeah, no, just feels very uncertain right now. We don't know if it's gonna go one way or the other. We don't know if we're gonna get what we want, or
honestly, sticking with the theme of black truth, I think a lot of the blacks, right, they want the illegals out.
because they get more benefits.
Exactly, they want the blacks out, and I really think the blacks are gonna be the ones that,
They're gonna be like helping them.
yeah, basically, hey man, them motherfucking Venezuelan motherfuckers over there, man. I mean, you've seen the videos of the YNs and the Venezuelans getting into it with each other. I mean, shit,
Yeah.
the Venezuelans tried claiming. I'm not gonna say the block, but the block over here.
You're about to draw like.
I was about to name drop. Yeah.
You're about to name drop the block down line.
Yeah, I was about to name
You're
drop.
about to name drop the location of the
I'm
studio.
not whispering to you.
No, you don't need to tell me. I know where it is.
Okay,
I
good.
know where it is.
Oh, yeah, my bad.
And now someone's gonna look it up on.
Well, no,
I don't even live in Chicago.
I
don't
do
even
think-
live in Chicago. I live on the earth. That's where I live.
I live on the earth too, but sometimes I like to.
The earth is everywhere. Anyway, what were you saying?
So I do think that the blacks are really gonna like help the ICE agents or just help this deportation thing go. They're gonna help it fucking happen because if anyone, they're gonna be the biggest ones that are gonna fight for it because they're gonna be like, get these fucking people out of here. They're taking away our jobs. Yada yada yada. So the thing is that the Republicans could hide behind the blacks, right? Because the blacks want them out. You know what I mean?
My only thing is, I feel like one of them, they're gonna try to help them out, and the police or whoever, ICE or whatever, they're gonna look up the guy that's trying to help them. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, you have an arrest warrant.
Maybe you never know.
So that's why they don't want to help.
Well, remember they cut the mob deals. Like the mob would, like a mobster that was like a snitch, he would have like a track record. But they're like, hey, we'll forget about it, right? If you tell us, where to get the rest of these fucking Guidos. So that's what they might do to like Jamal. They'll be like, hey, Jamal, I see your fucking track record right here. You have a warrant in fucking Detroit, New York, Chicago. But you know what? We're gonna let it slide because you're gonna help us get these fucking aliens out. I mean, this hypothetical situation probably would not happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of hypotheticals. Speaking of hypotheticals, today's Black Truth comes from me. So I guess I've been trying to lean more into the spiritual aspect of this podcast now that I realize what we're doing with this show. And
Well, I mean, let me cut you off real quick. The way I look at everything and media, it could be music, it could be, anything as simple as a fucking. It could be something as simple as this trilogy, right? I try to analyze things through the lens of like Christianity.
you're just gonna hold it for the whole entire episode.
So I try to analyze things through the lens of like Christianity, conservatism, whatever conservatism even fucking means, right?
Support Israel.
Yeah, or even like a lot of like philosophy or psychology. That's what I try to analyze everything through that lens, because at the end of the day, that's what everything fucking comes down to. You know what I mean? I mean, look at perfect example of psychology. Look at the body language. There's a whole fucking video. I think it's like an hour long. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Of the Joker's body language in the Joker and in the Dark Knight. And their body language is perfect. And if you have like a background in psychology, I mean, I never went to school for psychology, but I read up a lot of books on psychology. I have a sister who's studying psychology, so when you have an understanding of psychology, you see everything through that lens. Same thing with philosophy. I mean, the first I know we had a Black Truth where I'm talking shit about anime, but I actually do respect it and like it as an art form. But the first I think the first anime was technically Dragon Ball, but that's different. I'm genetically predisposed to like Dragon Ball, but Kachi put me on with Berserk, right? And I thought, fuck, this is like the greatest piece of media I've ever. I honestly think it's one of the best stories ever written. But it's like a Nietzschean tragedy. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Kentaro Miura, he read up on Nietzsche, right? Like he was a fan of Nietzsche's work.
I would assume.
Well, I mean, he even quotes Nietzsche too, because I was watching. There's like a literally, I know it's an hour long fucking documentary talking about how Berserk is a Nietzschean tragedy, and he literally quotes from his books. He literally quotes from his fucking books. So that's what I'm saying. Like everything in media goes back to either philosophy, psychology, or religion. Now, the religion that I choose to believe in is Christianity. Now, if I'm going to narrow it down even further, I would say Roman Catholicism.
Not Irish Catholicism?
No.
You know, I did that one time. Like when I was in school, I was like, "Hey guys, like we're not actually Roman Catholic. We're actually Irish Catholic, because that's our school." Well, Courtney, what do you think about my school?
Well,
like
I think
using vague, not naming anything, because we're not on Rumble yet. What do you think about like my school and like the school you used to go to for a little bit?
We both went for elementary. We both went to the same Catholic school. I did go to public school. I was also homeschooled too. Now, my high school, I was all public, right? That's why I am the way I am, right? But I guess the one you went to, your high school, hell, even the fucking elementary school that we went to, they're apostate schools.
I don't know why it's so funny when he says it, but
they're apostate schools. They don't teach theology. They don't. They don't fucking teach theology. They teach. I mean, let me get this motherfucking shit, man. They literally don't teach theology. They teach fucking science. They teach liberalism. Be nice to people. You know, I mean, you should be nice to people, but I'm talking about like, there's a difference between, you know, you have a friend that's gay and you're like, listen, dude, I really don't agree with your lifestyle. I love you as a person because you're made in the image of God, but you need to repent and deny yourself of the flesh. They don't fucking teach that. What they tell the kids is, oh no, you need to fulfill your desires. You are who you are. This is how God wanted you to be. No, he fucking didn't. Because if he did, it would have said in the Bible or in some fucking church teaching that you could be gay. Like you can have homosexual relationships. And it doesn't. And they don't, like I said, they don't even teach theology. You said it yourself. When you guys had mass was what, once a month?
Yeah, it was once a month.
Once a fucking month? And it was a joke, right? Nobody took it serious. They're all laughing.
So make sure you talk it to the mic.
Sorry. I'm new to this. But they're you said they never took it serious, right?
Well, I would say my problem was that, it was like a once a month ordeal. Basically, like, almost like they have to do it because they were obligated to, because they were a Catholic school. And then at the same time, like, it was in like a gym. So, like, even, like, compared to our elementary school, like, it kind of felt way more like a joke. And it felt way more like it just existed to, like flex the band that was there and the choir. And because there's, like, a choir group. So, I guess the choir group has to do something. And then everything else, I could tell, like, the priest there, like, he just, like knew, okay, like, this obviously isn't really doing anything.
Honestly, I think a lot of the priests, can I take this? I want to spit. I'll tell you, this is the problem, right? A lot of these, not all the priests, there are priests in Catholicism that are very conservative. They stick to the Catholic doctrine. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, I think there's a lot of fucking priests. Because this is what it is. Again, we're from Chicago. It's a fucking Catholic city, right? We got Polacks, Mexicans, Irish, Italians, Puerto Ricans. A lot of the Catholic churches in Chicago were built by German immigrants, right? Because I thought they were all fucking Lutheran. No, there's a lot of Catholic Germans, right? And they built these churches. So we are a very culturally Catholic city, right? Catholicism, like Islam, is a very cultural religion, right? So what I think it was that a lot of these priests post Vatican II that were growing up in the city and all that, you know, back in the day, that's what it was. You either got married or you were a degenerate or you became a priest. And a lot of these guys, I think they became priests because they felt like, fuck, like I really don't want to work. You know what I mean? I really don't want to work, you know, because their dads all worked fucking union jobs or steel factories. They're like, fuck the steel factory. I think I'd rather just, you know, just do that all day, basically. I'm not making fun out of the religion. I'm making fun out of them as people. So they looked at they looked at it like, military. I forgot to mention that. I don't want to go to the military. I don't want to work in the union or do a fucking factory job. I don't want to be a degenerate because then my family won't accept me. So fuck it, I'll just be a priest. Because I don't want to go to the army either. That's what it was. I do think that there were some priests that were convicted by the Holy Spirit to become priests, but I think a lot of them, they just became priests just for the fuck of it. Why not? Yeah, at least I get to travel. I get a good pension. I can't get laid, but I'm not gonna lie about that, right? That's what it is. So a lot of these priests that are at our schools, they didn't even fucking care. And then, God forbid, they actually start pressing the kids on their faith, because then some fucking single mom is gonna come in. Hey. In my house, we go to a non-denominational church, and she said it's okay for me to suck 20 cocks at the same time. Because the Catholic priest would be like, oh, you know, you need to save yourself for when you're married. And then here comes fucking single mom, fucking Susie. You're not going to tell my son that racist rhetoric, that fucking conservative garbage.
You think that happened to you before? You know people like that? Or are you saying like a theoretical? Like...
No, because I know a lot of people left the Catholic Church because they felt like it was too conservative.
Well, no, well,
and it's funny because they felt like it's too conservative now. Imagine the way it was pre-Vatican II.
Yeah. But I know there's a lot of people that they just go to Catholic. They use like the Catholic school. Thank you, sir. They use Catholic schools because it's a vehicle to better education. So I think at the end of the day it still is compared to public schools.
I think it's like comparing like 14 karat gold to 16 karat gold. It's not that much of a fucking difference. Well, that's me because I've experienced both. I went to public school and I went to Catholic school, and I think what it is, it's more of like a status symbol more than anything. Oh, I sent my kid to fucking neither of us live anywhere near it. St. Ignatius. That's the most expensive Catholic school in Catholic high school in Chicago, right? My son goes to St. Ignatius. He's gay.
Yeah, I think, but I think maybe high school is more the education and the better ones. You know, they're obviously gonna be better, but I feel like also
no. You know why? Let me tell you why. Because the selective enrollment schools. Oh, that's another thing. The fucking education system in general has just dropped its standards so low. But no, Whitney Young, Jones Prep, Northside College Prep. You had to have the grades to get into those fucking schools, and those are public schools. They were selective enrollment schools that you had to test into. You don't have to test to go to fucking St. Lawrence or any of the others. Oh, gave one away. But you don't have to test to get into these schools as long as your parents got money, right? That's all that really matters. I know you knew a bunch of dumbasses that were going to Catholic high school.
But what I'm trying to say is that if you did want to get a proper education and your kid was smart, he could technically take advantage of it. But
if you had the grades, yeah. If you had the grades, yeah.
But I'm not denying that there's a bunch of dumb people and a bunch of people who just send their kids to those schools because they feel like it's better than them going to... Name a random public school.
Simeon Academy, Gage Park High School. Literally, no. Like, those aren't even fucking schools. To be honest, I don't know what the graduation rate is, but I know those are like the top 10 worst high schools, not in Chicago, in all of Illinois. Literally all of Illinois. So they rather just, fuck it. We'll just, send the kids to Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. The people living in those communities wouldn't have the money to even afford that. The only way they could send their kids to these high schools is if they did sports, soccer, football, basketball, and that. Sticking to the theme of the show, that's why there's so many black kids in Catholic high schools, because blacks are typically of the Protestant denominations, right? Baptist, Methodist, any of the other fucking denominations, but they get in because this fucking white kid is low on tea. He can't like bash other kids like the way Tyrone can. I mean, come on, like you can't even deny that.
It's like that one Shane Gillis bit where he's the football coach.
I know which one you're talking about. When they're all racist and shit, and then they become like pro-black once they get the black kids on the team.
But yeah, I think you like what you're saying. The standard is so low that the Catholic schools can kind of be allowed to like let certain things slide, and also, but in general, I kind of feel like. Sorry about that. In general, I kind of feel like the education system is so low.
I mean, in general, it's just low as fuck.
In general, it's just so like. Let me ask you this: what would you change about the education system?
What would I change about the education system? So what I would do was, I would, like when the kids are like, let's say like not the first year of high school. The first year of high school, just straight up, regular schoolwork, right? So they know how to fucking survive, right, in the real world, right? But I think they should make them take a test, right? They should make them take a test to see, like, look, this is what you most likely test for, right? They're like, okay, let's say me, I took a test, right? And I'm a fucking dumbass. I am a dumbass, right? And they're like, look, your best option will be carpenter, plumber, at the very least, like I don't know, a bookkeeper, right?
Yeah.
No, maybe that's maybe it's too much for me, right? But no, yeah, I'm saying like they're like, okay, listen, son, welding, plumbing, carpentry, this is what you test into more or less. So we can focus for the next 2-3 years on getting you a degree in welding or plumbing, or focus 3 years in school focusing on a trade. Guess what, motherfucker, you're gonna be ready. You're gonna be ready for some shit once you get out there. And then let's say by the time you get to your last year, that's when they start sending you onto the field, right? Because that's what Cristo Rey does in Pilsen. It's a Catholic school that you go to school Monday through Thursday, and then Friday you go work. So now they have something on their resume. Now that's something good. I could get on board with that.
Nothing else from like grade school.
Grade school. I think the majority of it should just be recess.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Because I think the problem with, because it's a pretty easy thing to change, but these people don't want to change because they're brainwashed by the Common Core education system.
Well, that's because we live in a gynocentric society.
Yeah.
Because like, okay, if you tell a girl, it's funny, right? If you tell a girl, shut the fuck up and listen, you know what I mean? Shut the fuck up. Listen to what's on the board or whatever bullshit they're talking about, right? Okay. And then they give them the grades like, oh my God, you got an A, congratulations. Oh my God. And then they're like, oh my God, I got a fucking A. Right? The boys don't give a fuck.
Like, what does this have to do with me? How's this gonna help me?
Why do I care about the 6 million? Why should I care about the 6 million? I'm Sephardic.
I'm trying to kick the ball far. That's all I want to do if I'm a kid.
But that's real shit. Like, we're making jokes, but that's real shit. I wanted to go fucking play baseball. I wanted to do boxing because those are the sports that I grew up with in my house, right? Well, I never boxed, but me and my dad, we would watch boxing and stuff like that. We tried playing baseball, but if you're Hispanic, you don't get to be around your dad because we're always working, right? So yeah, you know what I mean? Like all the school, it's all curated towards like making people into like docile, submissive little like workers is really all it is. And this is even why I've had trouble at most jobs that I've had. Well, I've only had 2 jobs since I graduated from high school, but the other 2 jobs I had before was construction and tree service, right? But the 2 jobs I had recently, one of the issues they've always had with me is that I always do whatever the fuck I want. Obviously, there's certain rules and codes and shit you're supposed to follow, obviously, right? But a lot of people have always hated the fact that I was never docile or submissive. And I think that's the reason why a lot of these kids, unfortunately, get kicked out of high school and get kicked out of high school. And then, they're not going to go get their fucking GED unless they send them to Lincoln's Academy.
Well, I think the worst thing is when they want to fix it, or they want to fix the fact that like a kid can't pay attention, and
By shooting them up with drugs.
yeah,
ADHD medication. What is it called?
Ritalin,
Adderall, right?
Adderall, yeah.
Adderall is harder to get off of than cocaine. Yeah.
Well, isn't it the same like thing from meth? I forgot. It's like
It's easier to get off of meth, cocaine, and heroin than it is to get off of Adderall.
Well, I think also it's because it's a lot easier to get Adderall like legally.
No, I think it's the chemical compounds too.
Yeah, but the chemical combination that Adderall and meth have is like basically like I think there's like one element off that Adderall has, but it's like almost the same thing. And like like the thing how they get them is that they say like, oh, like the kid can't stay still, he can't pay attention, I'm about to flunk this kid. But if you say, oh, he has this medical problem, we'll get him and pass him next grade. And the mom is just like, oh, it's not really, because also the other thing is that like when their kids are failing, like they don't ever really blame the kids. Some of them do, but they try to say like, oh,
the old school parents did, but the new school ones don't.
They think it's like oh, it's the teacher's fault, and in some ways it is that the kid, because if the kid's not invested, then but that's like obviously that's like the bigger problem with the school system, that the kid isn't invested. But they think, okay, the solution isn't to change the school system, all that stuff. The solution is I'm gonna get this kid on like Ritalin, Adderall, all that stuff, and make him docile so he could like
I think that's the whole issue. I mean, I think the powers that
he should get on nicotine. That's what he should get on.
Yeah. Do you have any Nick pouches? Seriously?
Yeah.
Can we get them?
Well, I don't want to advertise any Nick pouch, because I actually have seen like there's like a Nick like pouch sponsorship thing, and they have to do that thing where they in the beginning of the video they have to say like, oh, like this is gonna kill you, blah blah.
This is the best thing you can put into your fucking body. This will lock you in better than.
I like how all they did was say nicotine, and like you got like attached, and I'm talking about people being and I'm talking about people being addicted to drugs, and you immediately get like attached, like you have like a
it's because I love
physical response to it.
I love drugs.
But yeah, no, I just think
there's only one in it.
You serious?
Yeah, you want to share?
You're lying, bro. I know.
Look.
I don't want to share it.
Okay. I know, I'm just kidding.
How am I gonna share? You're gonna rip it, and we're gonna like.
No, I was gonna keep it in my mouth for a couple minutes and then have you put it in.
Well, yeah, no, I just think I think the education system is I think most people would, even like if you go to a teacher, I think obviously a teacher, they'll be like the ones that would say it the most, but also at the same time they know that they benefit from this lax state of teaching that we have. They benefit from the most, but at the same time they don't get paid from it. So I think they're like, okay, I don't really care because I'm not really getting paid that much to teach the next generation of people, even if they are from, let's say, like a bad neighborhood.
Well, I think the problem with a lot of teachers is that I think they start off as like wide-eyed, you know what I mean? Green, wide-eyed guy. Like, man, I really want to educate the system. And then they see like fucking 20 of their students get fucking killed, locked up. Half the girls get fucking pregnant, especially the Latinas, right? Only real Latinas get pregnant at 13, 14 years old. And you see this enough times and it starts fucking with you. It's like that one teacher that I told you that I had. He worked in the hood his whole life. And I think he did start out as a liberal. And he became a conservative. Because he grew up on a nice side of Chicago. Actual Chicago, not the burbs, right? He grew up in like a nice part of the city. He was like, man, I can't wait to get out there and teach these kids. You know, they really need some more positiveness in their life. And then he tried being the positiveness in their life. And what did he get? A foot up the ass.
True.
You know, and that's what I think happens to a lot of these teachers is they start off with these wide-eyed, very like, what's the word? Just enthusiastic to teach the next generation. Then after 5-10 years, you're like, fuck. There's nothing you can do. Literally, the teacher cannot save the kid.
The only thing that schools can really do is just be more honest, I think, and just admit that they're like a glorified like daycare center.
That's literally what it is, yeah. That's literally what it is. That's why I don't even think we should have like... I think high school should only be like 2 years, to be honest.
I think grade school, like
start working at 16, that's why I said that.
I think grade school should be mainly just playing around. Obviously, like if you are a kid that does not want to be on the court, if that kind of starts off at like a young age where you decide like, oh, I want to do this, maybe want to do that. I feel like be on the computer, go to the computer lab, figure out how to mine Bitcoin, all that stuff when you're early on. As long as there's like a guy watching you, like I'll be that guy. I'll be the guy in the computer lab watching, like making sure the kids aren't like on Rumble or BitChute. I'll make sure that I'll be like, hey, keep it at home. Don't do it over here. But I like how you're mining the Bitcoin, all that stuff. Like yeah, but if you're not predisposed to athleticism, then we'll have another option for you.
And the thing is, I would say I feel like most men are how do I say this?
But we shouldn't be in a plastic seat like for 8 hours.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I don't think most men are predisposed to like sit on a seat for a very long time and learn about like the intricacies of a how technology works.
I think even the people who are smart, they even realize that too. They don't want to be in a plastic.
That's what I'm saying, because there's a lot of like, I'm gonna say sound like a dumbass, but there's a lot of smart people that like working out and being physically active.
Like Luigi.
Yeah, like Luigi. No, look at like Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was a wrestler. Look at Wes Huff, the fucking Christian theologian. He's in really good fucking shape. You know what I mean? You could be nerdy about some shit, but yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, because even the ones that are into nerdy shit, they don't want to just sit on their ass.
They know that it's not like the right thing. I feel deep down their bones it's not the right thing.
Yeah, they know. I mean, you could lift weights for like an hour or two, you know, get nice and swollen, and then the rest of the day, because you really only need like 40 minutes of exercise every day. So if they get in there, let's say they're 40 minutes to an hour, just spend the rest of the fucking day doing whatever they want, you know, reading up on whatever it is they want to read up on.
But think about how much energy like a kid has, and how much of it will just confined to like 30 minutes. Did you have recess at the other grade schools you went to?
Yeah, public school has recess. Yeah, recess was more lit because we used to get kisses and hickeys.
How long was it?
About 30 minutes.
Yeah, 30 minutes is a no-go. Should be way longer. Should be...
I think it should be like 2 hours long.
Literally.
Yeah, literally 2 hours long. Yeah, just do whatever the fuck you want for 2 hours. Play on the fucking... get on the swing set. Get on the monkey bars. Basketball, baseball, soccer. I think we need more combative sports in the fucking schools, too. I don't know why they only have wrestling.
Because wrestling is
you could die. You could die from wrestling, by the way. If you get dropped the wrong way, you could fucking die. We need to have boxing. We should have like karate, taekwondo, stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, I just think the things that they send these kids to do after school, I just think it should be what they're mainly doing. Because that's really what they care about at the end of the day. I feel like kids will be like, oh, I want to go with my friends and be on the soccer team, want to do that. I really want to be in school. School is just kind of an extension of that.
Yeah, because even as a kid, I always liked, well, here's the thing. Our Catholic school that we went to only had fucking soccer. I didn't want to play no spick-ass sport. Well, technically it's a British sport. I take that back. But I'm anti-British people. They're not even people, bro. We kicked their ass in 1776. But, no, yeah, like we only had soccer. I don't want to play fucking soccer. I wanted to do baseball. I always wanted to play baseball as a kid. And I couldn't play baseball in high school because I didn't have the right grades. Why the fuck do you have to have the right grades to play baseball? That's stupid. Or any sport in high school. That's fucking.
Yeah, my school they really like let the football players slide. So I don't really know why that made sense.
Well, because of that, I'm like football is America's fucking. Well, they said baseball was America's pastime. Well, it's fucking football. I think it's football. That's a fucking American sport.
Goalie ball.
Yeah, literally. So you know. As a kid, I did have an interest in like religion and stuff like that. Because even when I was a kid, like I would watch like History. You shouldn't get your theology from History Channel, but you know History Channel. I was watching stuff about Jesus, the archaeological discoveries and stuff like that. When I got my iPad or my HP tablet,
he really tried to slide and say an iPad, and then he had to be honest.
I had an HP tablet. I would look up. I accidentally got into conspiracy theories as a young kid, so you know, I would want to look up like the Knights Templar, you know, and you know the Council of Nicaea and all this stuff, like all these like heresies in Christianity, like Marcionism. Because I knew about this shit at 12 years old. Can you believe that? I was esoteric at 12 years old. And the schools weren't going to like curate the education towards that. I mean, the Knights Templar are like one of the most important institutions that have ever existed in the history of the West. We wouldn't have banks if it was not for the Knights Templar. We wouldn't have all those Eastern Christians in the Middle East. They would have been wiped off the face of the fucking earth if it wasn't for the Knights Templar.
Speaking about theologic education, one of the things I wanted to bring up was, I guess we were gonna start doing one episode, and then we just shifted to this one that we had in the back, and I'm like, okay, I guess we're gonna do it. But anyway, so yeah, I went to a Catholic high school, and like in the last year, I had a class on marriage, and what it was just like, it was just this one teacher. He was a cool guy, but basically the whole class was him giving advice, and then like once a week he would have us do like a fake like worksheet, basically like fill like get this workbook and then like write down these questions and answer them. It would be like fake work basically, but like the rest of the class was or rest of like the every class every day was basically him just like on the table, and he's telling like life experiences, stuff that happened to him, and most of them would somehow relate to marriage somehow. But one of the things that he said before was literally, he said like, this might shock you, he said literally like he told the kids, he's like, wear a condom. Like he's like a Catholic like teacher. Officially he has like I think there actually has to be some like thing you go through like the church technically, and
So can I talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay, as far as condoms are concerned, they are condemned by the Catholic Church, and the Protestant churches for the longest condemned contraceptives too. I was watching like a TikTok about it not that long ago, that sometime during like the 60s and 70s, that's when the Protestant churches are like, never mind, you guys can wear condoms. And then the Catholics are still the doctrines still say like you're not supposed to use contraceptives because sex is just for making children, right? Within the confines of marriage. But the issue, because he told you guys to wear condoms, right? The issue is this, and is that a lot of guys today, celibacy is not even on the fucking table. Right, because we live in a gynocentric fucking society. I mean, these guys, they grew up in the generation where they're like, she's the boss, happy wife, happy life. You know, the only way you'll be fulfilled is if you marry the woman of your dreams. Guess what? The woman of your dreams isn't always the woman that's going to fulfill you. You know what I mean? Because everything you do should honor God, and if you're honoring your woman, you're not honoring God. You're honoring a fucking person. And then she becomes a leader, and then she becomes the religious leader of the house when the man's supposed to be the spiritual leader of the house. But the issue is that in today's time, men, they either want to get married because they're either scared to die alone or they just want to have sex.
What are you saying at me?
No, I'm just saying.
I
wanted you to reinforce what I was saying.
Oh,
yeah,
because you have the mic. I don't want to just like.
Well, sorry. So yeah, that's basically my thing. Where it's like, in today's time, I'm gonna say some crazy shit. If you find a good woman, yeah, like you should try to like be the spiritual leader and marry her and have children with her to honor God. But everything you do in life should be to honor God. But if you're gonna get married because you're scared to die alone, well, what the fuck's wrong with you? You're not alone. If you believe in Jesus, he's always with you. Sex. I mean, are you that fucking perverse that you have to get married so you can have sex? But I need it, man. But I need it.
That's kind of like
because I've seen guys, they let their wives ruin their fucking children. I hope to God that I don't eat my words in like 10 years. But I've seen guys where they will literally like let their kids do whatever they want because they don't want to get yelled at by their wife, because then they're not going to get laid that night. They're going to have to go sleep on the couch. So if it's me personally, if I'm not pimping, I'm celibating.
And I assume you're gonna be just celibating. But yeah, but that's your thing, right?
Well, that's my thing. Of course, like I said, if I get married, I want to get married to honor God, right? And have children to honor God, right? Not because, I'm scared to die alone or I really need some coochie.
But yeah, that's you. But it's just the fuck. Every time you get to me, I start coughing. It's just the idea that this guy who's like actually like educated, like by, or like he's given like proper authority from whatever the Catholic Church or whatever, um, whatever authority he has. But he literally just said like, yeah, no, you guys should have condoms.
Because again, he's thinking in fleshly terms. They're not pushing kids to be, they're not pushing kids, but they should inspire kids to be celibate.
But yeah, like the idea that he didn't even think about that is, or he didn't even try to push that, like even say like, oh well, cause I still remember it. He said like, no, like the problem is that these kids are gonna do it anyways, so you need to become celibate. Like, and the way he said it basically sounded like he was admitting defeat, but at the same time he was basically saying like, you guys should do this instead, and nowhere whatsoever was it brought up that
Be celibate.
Yeah, that telling this is what we're supposed to do because we're in a Catholic school.
Because what it is that, let me take this. What it is that I think we live in a society where, I mean, like I said, gynocentric, but men are taught to be simps, right? And women love and hate simps at the same time. They like the attention, but they inadvertently hate simps too because they don't respect them as men. Because you as a man, you're supposed to be the leader. You're not supposed to be the one following the leader. Right, and if you follow the leader's supposed to be a man who is greater than you, whether it be in the Christian sense, like a priest, or like your boss at your job, because he earned his way to the top. You know what I mean? Your supervisor, whatever the fuck, right? That's how it's supposed to be. But they're not teaching. They're like, oh no, happy wife, happy life, and clearly that doesn't fucking work. Here, I'm gonna quote scripture. King Solomon says in Proverbs, "It's better to be in a desert by yourself than to live in a castle with a quarrelsome woman."
Dang.
And that's real shit. And that nigga had like 200 bitches.
So he kind of. Do you think this is another cut? Do you think having too much like heterosexual sex makes you gay eventually?
Like Diddy, yeah. That's how I think Diddy got to the point that he was, because you can have any woman that you want on earth, and you start having it's kind of like porn addiction, right? Or you start watching, big booty Latinas doggy style, right? And then eventually you end up getting into like midgets and shit and like crazy depraved shit. And that's what I think it is with what you just said about too much heterosexual sex ends up leading to you, how do you say, you end up becoming,
you have a more like woman tendencies because you're around women too much.
No, I don't think it's that. I think if you're a masculine man,
it rubs off on you. Being around women too much rubs off on you.
If you don't have that masculine foundation, then it will. That's what it is. See, because in our society, we don't even value masculinity. So I mean, if you're a masculine man, whether when you have friendships or whatever with other women, if they can sense that masculine energy from you, they will respect you as a man. They will submit to you. Maybe not as a wife, but like, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a female friend, but I still think she should cook you a little fucking dinner. You know what I mean?
What else can they do, really?
I mean, the nuns do that. The nuns do that with the priests. Whenever they're having like congregations and stuff, the nuns are the ones that get all like the food and the drinks ready and all that. They're still in that feminine nature.
You want to take that?
Huh?
Want to take that?
Take what? What happened?
Anyways, moving on. Sorry, we're having a lot of cuts in this episode. We're getting a little busy. But any closing thoughts on this Black Truth that we had, which is that Catholic schools aren't all that, or like, they're not. Well, here's
real quick. I thought the Black Truth was where Christianity's heading.
No, this is the first Black Truth we're doing. We're gonna get into that one.
Okay, so this is gonna be a long episode, guys. So get your popcorn, get your fucking, your lube.
This is the Martin Luther King Jr. Day special episode.
That's a great one. He was a fucking Unitarian. He beat his wife. He cheated on her. But the worst thing he was a fucking heretic, and he was a Unitarian. He denied the Trinity.
Yeah, I don't respect that.
But going back to the whole Catholic school thing, I think the Catholic schools not being conservative in their theology is what's led to the poor catechesis of Catholics. Because, I mean, I grew up in a Catholic home, but my parents were very poorly catechized. Like my mother was very devout, but she got suckered into Joel Osteen and stuff like that. Joel Osteen, the whole prosperity gospel, the poor catechesis of the Catholic schools because they gave in to the fucking secular world, and because the secular world kept on telling them, oh, but I should be able to go to Catholic school and and still practice my own faith. It's like, no, you're supposed to be Catholic.
True.
And then they teach worldly values. Use condoms. Again, I know what I just preached right now was heresy, but I think from a philosophical point of view, you can understand where I'm coming from. I'd rather just have 2-3 girls that I'm banging and I'm not committed to any of them than be committed to one woman that's making me miserable. Oh, but I thought getting married was part of the Bible. Well, yeah, but you're not marrying her from the heart. You're marrying her from the flesh.
True.
And that's the problem. Is that, again, these Catholic schools, they gave into the way of the world, the secular world.
So do you think that they're better or worse than public schools?
Oh, I think they're equally bad. I think the only thing better about a Catholic school is that the classes are smaller, so it's easier for the teacher to have one-on-one with the students.
That's not all of them. That was just the one we went to. I don't think it's necessarily all of them.
Well, that might not be all of them, but I mean, from what I've heard from other people, because maybe I'm using too much of my own personal experience, because a lot of the teachers, when I was in public school, a lot of them went to fucking Catholic school, and they all said the same thing. They're like, yeah, the one thing that Catholic school has over us is that they get more one-on-one with the students. So instead of having like fucking 40, 50 students in a class, you're gonna have 20, 25 at the most. So you can have more one-on-one with the student. And not only just that, but what I've noticed from Catholic schools is that there's less gang activity, so that's not going to be as much of an issue, because I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Every young man that went to fucking public school, elementary or high school, and they live in an urban area, it doesn't have to be the city, but an urban area like Oak Lawn or Berwyn or Cicero, right? Those are urban areas, right? Yeah. So if you grew up in an urban area, right? Especially if you're a black, especially if you're Hispanic, and even the white guys too, right? Who were the niggas that were, how do you say this? Who were the niggas that were exalted? The hood ass niggas, right? The hood ass niggas were exalted, so all these other kids wanted to be like that. Now, I'm not saying that there's no gangbangers at Catholic schools, but it's not as much as public schools. In public school, you ain't getting no bitches if you're not in a gang or selling drugs, or at the very least cool with the hood ass kids.
I've heard that there's some in some of the other schools, but not in mine.
I've heard that too, but I think it's more prevalent in public schools.
Yeah. What? Just before we end this one, I think my thesis, I'm gonna see if you agree with this. My thesis for this first Black Truth is that Catholic schools are not necessarily good, but they're not necessarily bad either. Like I wouldn't hate but I wouldn't hate on them for like the liberal ways where they're like, oh, like this is schools, or there are people who just hate like privatized education. I wouldn't hate it on it in that sense, but I think that Catholic schools, from what I understand, it may even be like charter schools or other private schools. They take advantage of parents who want to send their kids to a better school.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
But then at the same time, the parents don't want to don't invest monetarily in the school, but like spiritually, they don't want to like go that other step.
Because what it is they like the status of saying, oh, my daughter goes to Queen of Peace. That school doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, closed down.
I know, but I'm just saying, people back in the day, like 10 fucking years ago, would have been like, oh, my daughter goes to Queen of Peace, or oh, my son goes to, or my kids go to this expensive ass school. I don't give a fuck about the theology. I don't give a fuck about anything. The education is secondary to the fucking status symbol saying that you went to an expensive fucking Catholic school. It's like there's this Chinese comedian where he's like he's like, oh, yeah, Chinese people, they want all their kids to be doctors. He's like, it's not about helping people. He's like, that's nowhere even on the fucking list. It's all about the status of saying my son is a fucking doctor and your son is a plumber.
Yeah, now that we're on that, I would have hated if I forgot this, but I remember I was watching Gavin McInnes one time, and he was talking about, like he basically got canceled, and his whole family was like ostracized because they live in like a Jewish suburb in New York, and they were all getting ostracized. So he and in the schools too, and so he was gonna send his like oldest daughter to a Catholic high school, and the school rejected him because of, or his daughter at least, because of who he is, or like who he's perceived to be by his town. So they denied her, and then at the same time he found out that they're because again it's like, oh, they denied it because like he's a bad guy, but at the same time, you know what what person's daughter was allowed to be there?
Who?
Harvey Weinstein's daughter.
Because what it is again. So you said Gavin McInnes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was make sure we're on the same page. Gavin McInnes, he preaches like conservatism, right? Like Americanism, right?
Yeah.
And Americanism, conservatism is a threat to the status quo, and the Catholic Church, I'm gonna say it, they will give in to the status quo, the secular world. So Harvey Weinstein, who gives a fuck how many bitches he raped? He doesn't oppose
A lot of good movies.
He doesn't oppose the status quo. He is the status quo. So of course we'll take him, and we're not going to take in a guy that actually somewhat cares about the faith. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what it is. That's why they don't want radicals. That's why a lot of Catholics they'll denounce someone like Nick Fuentes, right? Who you can argue is probably the most Catholic or the most Christian conservative commentator in conservative politics or right-wing politics.
Yeah.
But he's too radical. He's too radical because most fucking conservatives aren't even conservative, right? Because if you're a true conservative, you'll be like, no, you can't be gay. That's a sin. It's a sin against God. It's a sin against the natural order of things. So no, you shouldn't be gay. You should try to pray and repent of your sin. But they'll be like, but what do they say instead?
Oh, we're all the same people.
No, they say whatever you do behind closed doors.
Oh, sorry, I zoned out a little bit. My bad.
That's what I thought you were gonna say at first.
Yeah, whatever. It's our opinion. Just do it behind closed doors. Don't judge. But yeah, in closing,
my daughter has a black baby daddy.
I
It's okay. It's okay. I'm fine with it. I don't care.
don't have a problem with race mixing.
We're comedians. This is all a joke.
We're gonna have a few sets eventually. We're gonna have to actually do like comedy eventually, so that all the stuff that we say is bad, we have like proof. Like, oh, we did this before.
Well, we will be featured on the second season of Tires with Shane McGillis.
Shane McGillis.
He's Irish, so you know what I mean. Shane Gillis, he is Irish, so forgive me.
But yeah, that's the first one, the first Black Truth of this episode.
So that's gonna be a perfect segue.
Yeah.
Into
The second one, because again, I started this episode out, and I was talking about this idea. There's this prophecy that I have that I think is going to happen in the future, and I was starting to tie it in with this second Trump administration that we're having, and what that idea is that I believe, starting this year, we're going to see like a revival of atheism, specifically internet atheism, because I've just been around.
Well, actually,
I've been around. I guess I've been around like the dissident right wing politics long enough, and I kind of feel like what happens on the right kind of dictates what's going to happen in the rest of the world. And so what I've noticed is, there was the early 2010s era of YouTube, and I felt like the status quo for those YouTubers were to be atheists.
because I think culturally speaking, during that time in America, people were still pretty conservative, pretty Christianity was a status quo basically. Back then in the early 2010s, you said, I got you. back then in the 2010s, you said Merry Christmas. You didn't say Happy Holidays. You said Merry Christmas. God damn it, right? People back then, maybe they weren't practicing Christians or whatever, but they would still give glory to God. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like if they got in a war, they'll be like, I want to thank my family. I want to thank God. God's the greatest. And then now they'll be like, oh, the universe, the stars aligned for me to win this award. Maybe there is some truth to that if you've studied the esoteric, but that culturally back then people were pretty Christian, to say the least, right? Being atheist back then was like the atheists of that time were perceived to be more intelligent because they would ask these rhetorical questions like the errors in the King James Bible, right? They would point out those errors, or some of them were so fucking stupid. They would be like
why does God have suffering on the earth?
Yeah, like stupid shit like that. Like, well, no, that is a good question, but I'm just trying to like make what is it like low? Oh, like why was like low hanging fruit type of arguments. Like 200 years old? Why is Noah 200 years old? Well, the way, I mean, this is like deep theology, but it's like the way the Hebrews kind of time during then was longer or whatever because they had different calendars than we have today. But like what I'm saying, the type of arguments they would make is like example, they'll be like this. They'll be like there's errors in the King James Bible, right? That the King James Bible, I'm Catholic, so the King James Bible doesn't really necessarily apply. Oh, both of us were both Catholic. Any arguments against the KJV really doesn't even hold any weight because that's not our official. Our official Bible is the Latin Vulgate, or if you live in America, the NABRE, right? But no, they would make arguments like, oh, well, it says this in the Bible, so but that doesn't mean anything that it means today. So how do you know that it's true? Or they'll make dumbass arguments like that. They'll be like, well, there's over 300 gods. How do you know yours is the right one? Or they'll be like, how could a man die and be resurrected, right?
Yeah, stuff like that. But so I think that
real quick. I'm sorry. I forgot to finish my point because it just hit me. So because America was still pretty Christian at that point, people just believe what they believed. You know what I mean? They're like, when they would say like, oh, why is homosexuality a sin? Well, it's a sin because it says it in the Bible, right? Or Catholics, when you would ask Catholics why do they pray the Rosary, I'm not saying praying the Rosary is wrong, right? I think you should pray the Rosary, but they couldn't answer it. They're just like, oh, well, because my grandma taught me to do it, or my mom taught me to do it. So they didn't have the answer to some of these rhetorical questions. Now, the good questions they would ask is, why do we have to suffer? Why would I believe in a God that makes me suffer? But yeah, sorry. I had
What's the answer to that?
The answer to that would be this: is that God made the world for us not to suffer, but because of sin, because of original sin, that's why we suffer. Yeah. Because God bestowed upon us free will, right? So Thomas Aquinas writes about this, right? Saint Thomas Aquinas, pardon my French. He says that his version of predestination, which is called Thomistic predestination, right, is basically that God predestined all of us to be in heaven, for all of us to live, happy lives. You know what I mean? But because of Eve biting of the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, that, how do I say this? God gave us the free will, right? God gave us free will, and because he loves us so much, he's not going to impose his will upon us, because then that's not love, right? If I'm being your friend, right? If I'm your friend because I have the brand new PlayStation and I have all this new shit, and you only want to come over to my house because I have new shit, that's not a real friendship, right? A real friendship is like, oh, hey, bro, I got fucking locked up. I smacked my bitch last night. And he's like, all right, bro, bet I'll bail you out right now. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, hey, bro, I got you when I get paid. And you're like, you know what, bro? Don't worry about it. That's love. That's friendship. You know what I mean? If you have to force somebody to love you, that's not real love. So we're not forced to love God. God's like, if you want it, take it. If you don't want to, don't take it. But if you choose not to take it, you don't have to be part of my kingdom. You can go the way that Satan did. Satan was also given free will, and he chose, with that free will, he chose to pervert humanity and teach humanity sinful things like sexual degeneracy, war, lying, cheating, stealing, right? That's what Satan did with his free will. He poisoned all of humanity because God, the reason why, this is some deep theology, right? So the reason why Satan and all the fallen angels hate humanity as much as they do is because we were God's favorite creation. Not only are we spiritual beings, but we are physical beings, right? This fucking inanimate object has no spirit, right? The angels are spirits, or the fallen angels are spirits. They can manifest into human forms, but we were perfect. We were made in God's image, right? And they hate us because of that. Now, how long was that? Was that like a minute or two of me yapping?
Probably 2 minutes.
Okay. Do you think a Christian during that time would have been able to answer that question?
No.
Fuck no, because they didn't have the resources, and this was just a status quo.
Yeah.
You didn't have to know all this deep theology to answer that question.
Yeah, so I think at the time there was a lot more people because the internet, like the people who were making stuff on the internet at the time were more outcasts. It wasn't like everyone had like a camera or had like a little device that they could just like say all their opinions to at the time. You had to have a computer, you had to have a microphone like this. Remember back in the day how hard it was to get or not hard, but it was like the idea of getting a microphone like 10 years ago probably.
I mean, literally, like we're. I mean, I'm not gonna expose ourselves, but we don't have the best setup. But guess what? It's a lot easier now to become a content creator than it was back then.
And so that's why I think back in the day there was a certain type of person that I guess like maybe they're into computers and stuff, so they had the ability to make videos, and so that's why they all kind of had like the same opinion. But also it was kind of the thing where one tide like raises one tide raises like everyone else's. So if there's like one guy that says like, oh, I'm an atheist, then it's kind of like all of them are gonna be like, oh, I'm an atheist too, and everyone else is just gonna start making content about atheism. That's how it was at the time. And also there was just like basically like no Christian content creators.
Well, okay.
Let me ask because I know you're around.
So here's the thing. So there were some Christian creators, right? The majority of them were what? Protestant. Protestant, right? So here's the thing, right? I do think that there are some Protestants that can make valid arguments and they can have valid debates with atheists. I mean, what's that guy's name? Cliff. Fuck, you know who he is. The one that does the debates at the college campuses. He's argued with atheists, and he's a non-denominational. But the thing is that if you have a Protestant, right, on YouTube saying, here's why you... Perfect example. A lot of Southern Baptists, they don't believe in drinking, right? You can't drink because in the book of Leviticus or I can't remember the exact where it's in the Bible exactly, right? So they'll be like, oh, well, we can't drink because it says this in the Bible, right? So then the internet atheists will come out and say, well, it also says this, and that in the Bible. And these guys, they really didn't know. They knew their Bible, but they didn't understand it. So it was hard for them to argue. It was hard for them to make their points. Because if you read the Bible, you take it at face value, yeah, it does contradict itself. That's true. If you take it at face value, it contradicts itself, right? So these guys, again, Protestants, what's their thing? Sola Scriptura, Scripture alone. So if you, as a Protestant, start bringing up St. Augustine or John Calvin, these guys are like, well, that's not the Bible, so why do I care what that guy says? So then they're like, oh, fuck. What do I say? And then Catholics during that point, we're talking about the early 2010s. Even till this day, most Catholics are only Catholic because of culture, like Mexicans and Italians and stuff like that.
Yeah. So
they were able to make these arguments, but I think that now we live in a time where, all these people that were on the internet, because I personally believe that these internet people, they're the ones that got Catholicism and Orthodoxy, on the map. You know what I mean? Because they were able to do all this research. Because you're, like I said, I've said this before, your average layman is not going to go spend hours figuring out predestination. They're not going to figure out what certain passages mean in the Bible because they don't make sense in English, right? They might have made sense in that time, in that culture, in that language, but they don't make sense to the average layman, right? And now we have so much resources to argue from. And then another thing is, and this is me saying this, I think most debates, people win debates by who could get manipulated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whoever could get manipulated.
Yeah.
Or not get manipulated.
So that's what I kind of think is gonna happen. Because to call back to or reference something that was happening at the same time, like in politics, and in like 2016, like after Trump, that era, on the kind of dissident right that was on YouTube, I vaguely remember, is that debates were kind of frowned upon if you were like left wing. Like if you got into debates with right wingers, it was kind of frowned upon because it was like, oh, like you're giving the platform to this person. Like I remember vaguely, I remember Sargon of Akkad. You know, he's still around, but he was pretty big back in the day. He's a classical liberal, or at least at the time, I don't know what he is now. He's probably just like a vague conservative or whatever. But at the time, he was a classical liberal, and he debated Richard Spencer, and he had it. I forgot which person mediated the debate or whatever, but it was on YouTube. It was Richard Spencer versus Sargon of Akkad, and at the time, Richard Spencer wasn't this like wishy-washy, basically liberal type of guy. He was pretty much like right wing. He was saying "Hail Trump," all that stuff. So he was basically the representative of the alt right, and people on YouTube. Like I remember, like left wing people on YouTube were basically like why are you platforming Richard Spencer? Why are you guys even talking? You're just platforming each other. So that's why left wing people were like basically against the debates. And then there was also Ben Shapiro.
And I think what was helping out a lot of those conservatives during that time is they were arguing from facts and logic. Facts don't care about your feelings, right? In the words of Ben Shapiro, they were arguing with facts and logic. They weren't arguing with emotions. Because once you get past the emotions, then you're like, oh my God, well, maybe he is right. Maybe guys shouldn't be cutting their fucking weenie off, right? But then what do the liberals start doing?
Well, what I think the liberals started doing at first, again, they were hesitant on even debating because they cared too much of like this platforming thing. Like, as you know, famously, as H3 said, what did he say?
Don't give him a platform to defend himself.
And he was referring to pyrocynical. Obviously, this is not like that wasn't like a political thing, but obviously people really cared about their platform at the time. But I think the person who changed that, like the left wing person who changed that, was Destiny when he debated JonTron, as we've spoken about a few episodes ago. I think he started being one of the guys that started getting good at debating, and now where we're at, we're just like a pretty much there's a good scene of like left wingers that are willing to debate people, but it's not even. I wouldn't even say that they're. Well, obviously, I don't think they're right, but I think they've been able to convince a lot of people that they are right. But I think what they did is they took a minute to chill because they saw that these Ben Shapiro types were good at debating. So it took a while for them to understand their tricks, and then once they started understanding their tricks, like what's another one? Like so there's like Destiny, there's Vosh, Hassan Piker a little bit, even though there's like an old video of him getting roasted by Nick Fuentes. What's another? This Dean Withers guy. They're not necessarily like, obviously, like you can watch them if you're like right wing, you'll realize, okay, these guys don't make any sense, but you know that you can understand how they've convinced people to make people believe them.
And what I think it is that the people that they're able to convince are already emotionally attached to the idea of liberalism, and they see that guys like Hassan Piker and Destiny can connect that shit to facts and logic.
Well, to bring that up, it's funny because there was literally this guy back in the day, Hunter Avalon. He was like an anti-SJW more thing where he'll make fun of like body positivity or whatever. But he got into a debate with one of these guys, Vosh, I think, and he got into a debate and he lost so bad that he started becoming progressive.
Damn.
Like I know you haven't seen that one, but yeah, it's been like those guys have been better at manipulating people, I think.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I think they still rely on manipulation.
And so what I think, how I'm gonna connect that, what I think is gonna happen, I think because right now Christians have a good like spokesmen, so they have good like people that are spokesmen for Christianity. They have a better standing point. But what I think has been happening, or what's gonna happen, is the atheists who haven't been very active in like the debate scenes, they're gonna start coming back because not only are we getting Trump back, but we're getting more like Christian, I guess Christian leaning politics. And I think what's gonna happen is that anything bad that happens with Trump, one of the things that are gonna be blamed on is Christianity.
Christian nationalism.
Yeah, they're gonna blame that. They're gonna blame Christian nationalism, the reason why they took tampons out of the bathrooms. Or that actually happened though. You know, Mark Zuckerberg, one of his orders was to take out the tampons in all the men's bathrooms.
Oh, okay, no, yeah. Oh, I thought you meant like in female bathrooms. Like that's kind of it hit me for a moment. That's fucked up. You emotionally manipulated me right now.
But that was no, but it was a regular thing. Like they had tampons in.
Yeah, in men's bathroom. Yeah. I remember. Hell, they even got kitty litters in fucking bathrooms now.
But yeah, no, I just think that I think when I explained to him at first, I explained to him in like in Star Wars terms. You know, how like the Sith, they were hiding.
Our point of reference for like almost everything goes back to Star Wars. I mean, it's like poetry; it rhymes.
George Lucas's Star Wars. But yeah, what I basically think is what happened is that the atheist, the internet atheist, was mocked at for the past like 5 years or so, because like I think what changed the direction of the internet into accepting more or leaning more to Christianity was the memes making fun of atheists, like, you know, the one.
Yeah, like, oh, little Sky Daddy, like making fun out of them, right?
Yeah, and just looking at the type of people who talk about atheism and all the time, that and obviously, you know, like the Amazing Atheist, like he was basically like a god, you know, believe in God. He was basically an internet god at one point.
Lowercase G god for internet atheism.
He was basically a lowercase G god on the internet, and he went from like everyone like idolizing him, and now he's just like whatever. And but also he was like
he's just a fat loser that melts fucking candle wax on his cock
and puts bananas up to his you know what. But yeah, there's that the light kind of was like open, or like the light was opened up, and people started to realize like, yeah, the people who endorse these things are kind of dumb. But then the people who endorse Christianity, they seem way more.
I think what it is that because of the advent of Orthodoxy and Catholicism growing on the internet, so here's the three things that we have as I'm gonna just say apostolic Christians to make it short. As apostolic Christians, we have the authority of the church, we have the authority of the Bible, and the authority of tradition, right? So we have three things that we can fall on when it comes to arguing with atheists, right? Now, the thing with Protestants, again, especially if you're not a Protestant that's well versed in Christian theology, because I'll hold this for you. Because I'm gonna sidetrack for a bit. A lot of traditional Protestants, like Presbyterians, Anglicans, Dutch Reformed, they believe in the authority of the church, but they believe that Scripture is the infallible authority of the church. So the issue really isn't even so much Protestantism; it's more evangelicalism. That's the problem, because the evangelicals are more based on like, no, just the Bible and that's it. Because I think the Southern Baptists, I think they reject the Nicene Creed. John Calvin would have these guys fucking killed. Okay, maybe not really, but he would label them as heretics for denying the Nicene Creed. Like that's like an unimaginable, right? As a Christian denying that, right? So the problem is evangelicalism, but Christians are able to, apostolic Christians can stand on the authority of the church, the authority of tradition, and all the philosophies or theological philosophies that are written about within the church. Like I was able to answer that question about why do people suffer. Guess what? As a Catholic, we can refer back to Saint Thomas Aquinas. We can refer back to Saint Augustine, because these people wrote a lot of fucking shit explaining the Trinity. How does the Trinity work? Oh, well, because like, you know, a lot of Muslims or atheists will be like, Holy Father, Son, Holy Spirit. That's three different gods. It's like, well, no, we believe that these are three aspects of God that are what's the word? I can't remember the exact word. They're distinct but not separate. They're one and the same, right? They're, you know, water, ice, and vapor, right? Liquid, solid, gas. That's basically what the Trinity basically is. It's God in three different forms, same, equal, co-substantiate with one another, right? So Christians can never fucking argue that. So we can pull from theology to argue against atheism, You know what I mean? And Christians didn't have that before. Now we do, and now we understand the emotional manipulation tactics that these guys pull, right?
Yeah.
Well, they'll be like, well, oh, because I've seen it where they're like, well, my grandma was a bitch and she was a Christian and she went to fucking church every Sunday and I hated her and if that's what Christianity is, then I don't want to be a Christian. Well, that's not what Christianity is. She was a mentally ill person who shouldn't have been the spiritual leader. Should have been grandpa, and he didn't give a fuck because he was just getting laid every night, right? Because he was thinking with his flesh, not with the spirit, right?
Yeah.
And now she manipulated the whole entire family and pushed everyone away from the faith. Because a lot of atheists, their religious trauma is going to church on Sunday. And their grandma yells at them or their mom yells at them for not washing their ass. But if it makes me happy, then how is it bad? Well, just because you think it makes you happy doesn't mean it's going to fulfill you in the long run. If you have casual sex all the time, it's not going to fulfill you in the long run. You'll be more fulfilled having a family, being married to one person for the rest of your life than to be casually sleeping. But what if we don't love each other anymore? But what if he's mean? Well, that's the whole reason you get married. Through the good, through the bad, you love each other, not just in the flesh. You know what I mean? Oh, well, I'm scared to die alone. Well, you're not alone if you believe in God. If you don't believe in God, yeah, you're fucking, you're fucked. You're gonna die alone, right? That's what it is. We can answer these arguments. We recognize the emotional manipulation. I mean, if you put me up against a well-versed atheist, I don't think I could win the argument because I'm still studying theology, but I think like basic fucking atheistic arguments I can argue against. Because here's another thing. I don't even think most people are atheists. I think most people are agnostic. Because I've heard more people say, I believe that there's something, and then they start talking to me about chakras and fucking all this other retarded shit, manifestation, which I do believe that there is some truth to that stuff, but they misunderstand it, right? Because they're thinking in worldly terms. Because guess what? The Buddhists, rather.
Imagine there are a bunch of Buddhists.
Well, there's only 2 Buddhas. Well, Jesus was a Buddha according to Buddhism. So yeah, there is a bunch of Buddhas. But, guess what? The Buddhists, they deny themselves of the flesh too. You know that, right?
Yeah.
The Taoists, the Shinto, what's the main religion of Japan? Shintoism, yeah. They're the same way too. They deny themselves of the flesh. They live ascetic lives.
Yeah, so why aren't they copying them all the way?
Well, because what they want to do is they want to take these other religions and be like, well, look at this other religion. They kind of have the same thing. Yeah, but they don't have the fullness of the truth. And you're not going to shave your fucking head and move into a fucking temple and not have sex for the rest of your life, right? Because, you see guys talk about semen retention. Well, yeah, the Catholic Church taught that for 2,000 fucking years. It's called celibacy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like when people try to change, or they try to reinvent like the idea of like Lent or something. Like they say like, no, not November. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's like the first time I've heard.
Dry October, or was it dry October?
Dry January.
Dry January.
No, November.
Like the idea of
that's just reinventing the wheel. That was the whole point of Lent. Lent, you didn't have sex and you fasted from sun up to sundown. Yeah. That's what it was. Oh, and then obviously you wouldn't be drinking either. The only time you would drink anything alcoholic was the Eucharist on Sundays.
Like people want to be so special and they want to have their little group where they do these tests. And then they go like, oh, like I did this with this group. It was crazy. Yeah, why don't you join everyone? Everyone's doing this.
Literally.
What are you, wait, sidetrack. Or I guess last thing right there, I don't know. We're kind of going too long. What are you going to do for Lent? What are you going to, it's your sacrifice for I was going to say your holiday. What's your sacrifice for Lent?
I want to try to be celibate the whole entire time. Like, literally, like, no sex and no, like, that.
My things, what I've been doing, what I've been doing is like not being on YouTube. But I don't think I can do that anymore because we're being YouTube.
And another thing is prayer, because I was never even a big. I used to pray more when I was a kid, but as an adult, it just feels a little awkward. But prayer, that's an excellent thing. Prayer is a form of meditation. oh no, I have to do Zen Buddhism because I have to empty myself. And I'm like, motherfucker, you want the highest form of spiritual enlightenment? Get fucked in the ass. That's what the fucking Romans did. That's what the Egyptians did. If you take another man's nut in your butt, it charges you. If you tan your asshole, this is what the Hindus taught. If you like bend over doggy style and face your butthole towards the sun, it charges you.
Yeah, I've seen people endorse that. Like they've said, like,
this
has been like manosphere guys. They've been like endorsing like sun tanning and like sun tanning your butthole, and that's gonna give you like the most like euphoric like power and everything.
But here's the thing. Most people aren't gonna do that because they know it's fucking weird. That's what I always say. I'm like the greatest fucking emperors that have ever existed, the greatest fucking army leaders, general leaders, warmongers, all had boy lovers. So if you want to be on the highest form of spiritual enlightenment, go get you a boy lover. Alhamdulillah.
That's crazy. Can you pause it?
Yeah, I want to end the video with me walking away.